My chosen person is Aethelflaed, the Lady of the Mercians. Aethelflaed was the oldest child of Alfred the Great. She married Aethelred, Lord of Mercia, when she was only 16. When he became ill, she ruled in his name, and when he died, she became the sole ruler of Mercia, and she was then known as the Lady of the Mercians. Despite being a woman, which would have been a huge disadvantage in those days, she had quite a lot of military success. The first thing she did when she became the ruler of Mercia was to hand over a lot of her land to her brother Edward, who ruled Wessex. This might seem like a really strange thing to do. Why on earth would you just gift your land to somebody else? I mean, Edward may well have been her brother, but he was still her rival, and he would have loved to get his hands on the Kingdom of Mercia. But Aethelflaed was clever. The land she gave him was land that bordered the Danelaw, which was a large area of the country controlled by the Vikings. This would have delighted Edward because it would have given him a larger border from which to attack the Vikings. However, it also gave him a larger border to defend from the Vikings. And while he was busy fighting them, he had less time to eye up Mercia. It also meant that Aethelflaed could now withdraw all those troops who had been busy defending the border and send them on the offensive elsewhere. So with this larger army that she now had control of, she was able to recapture other local towns from the Vikings. So she recaptured Bridgnorth, Tamworth, Stafford, and then she fortified those places against further attacks. She went on to recapture Derby, and she negotiated with the Vikings in York, who agreed to surrender to her. So she achieved quite a lot of success. But my favourite story about her is from 905, when a group of Vikings who were living on the Wirral decided to attack Chester. The first time they attacked, Aethelflaed decided to fight them outside the city walls. Her army then pretended to retreat and lured the Vikings inside the city walls. And here she had her real army waiting in hiding, just waiting to attack, and the Vikings were defeated. Undeterred, the Vikings attacked a second time. They'd learnt their lesson from the last encounter, and this time they attacked from outside the city walls. So what did Aethelflaed do? Well, she got the townsfolk to boil up vats of beer, and they poured the scalding liquid over the walls. That got rid of the attackers very quickly. But the Vikings weren't the type to give up, and they came back a third time, this time with shields to protect them from any hot liquid being thrown down over the walls. Unfortunately for them, Aethelflaed wasn't the type to give up either. She ordered the townspeople to gather up all the beehives from within the city and to throw them over the walls to the Vikings below. Exit Vikings very quickly, pursued by swarms of very angry bees. So who knows what else Aethelflaed might have achieved if she had lived longer. Sadly, she died in 918, aged only about 48, but I still think Aethelflaed was the coolest heroine in English history, and hopefully so do you now.